Go ahead. Oh, sorry.
No, you're okay. I was going to say, and Casey, thank you. Let's take a look right here at the playoff picture. Those watching on YouTube, we appreciate you. Take a look right there. There's the playoff picture.
Yep.
Obviously, you have your division leaders. You have the Chiefs, the Bills, Steelers, and Texans up there at the top. But where we have to follow for the Bengals is that 5, 6, and 7. Obviously, that second loss of the season to Baltimore. I still think, and you said it earlier, I think the Steelers have the North.
It's over.
I'll save you some time. It's not 5, 6, and 7.
It's just 7.
It's 6 and 7.
Yeah.
And I'd argue it's just 7.
I don't think so. I think you can catch the Chargers.
I'm for right now, I'm going to say 6 and 7. But if the Chargers win Sunday, it's just the 7.
If the Chargers win Sunday, I think it's done.
Like playoffs done.
I think the Bengals have to beat the Broncos and the Chargers.
See, the only reason I disagree is because I am that far out on the Colts. The Jets are dead. The Patriots aren't good. The Browns had a shot and they screwed it up. Like, even if the Browns looked competitive against the Chargers, I would still be quietly in the corner over here saying they're within striking distance. The Browns are bad. They're a train wreck. They are out. The Dolphins are out. The Patriots out. The Jets, Colts. So, Jacob, I want to agree with you that if they lose, it's going to be catastrophic reaction from everybody, no doubt. But at the same time, every team is bad there at the bottom. If the Bengals lose on Sunday, I will put them in the bad category. I don't think that they're bad. We're going to get into the you are what your record says you are. I think the Bengals are one of those. I think we'll all agree. I think they're better than what their record says, to be fair. But those others are bad. The Colts, the Browns, the Jets, the Patriots, the Dolphins, those teams don't have a shot. And I think just by default, the Bengals are just talented enough to backdoor into that final spot. But what you're wanting is you want them to definitively win it. That means beat the Chargers. That means beat the teams you're supposed to moving forward. Outside of the Patriots, to their credit, they've beat everybody that they're supposed to. The problem for Cincinnati is they just haven't beat that one team that gives you that confidence. I mean, they were one play away on Thursday night from finally giving the entire NFL universe that win, that like moment of, okay, we just beat the Ravens. We're good. Obviously, that's what made that finish so emotional on Thursday night. But, yeah, I think the Bengals, it's their playoff spot to lose. And I will say they have to try to lose that. I don't see a scenario where the Bengals don't get that final playoff spot. And that's coming from the ultimate Bengals hater, apparently.
The only thing that can save these other teams is schedule. That's it. But I will say the Colts and the Broncos do play each other this year. So that's a game against one of them. The Broncos, I'd argue, have a tougher schedule. They play the Falcons on Sunday. Then you get a little 2-week grace period with Raiders, Browns, respectfully. Then you have the final 4 weeks of the season, Colts, which is one of the teams, Chargers, Bengals, Chiefs. That's how they end it. Now, the issue might be the Chiefs aren't going to play anybody in that final game, so that could be a win for them.
Another issue is that someone has to win that Colts game.
Correct, but it also kills the other team. I think that's going to be the elimination game. Between one or the other. The Colts, on the other hand, their schedule, they play the Jets, which, again, the Jets are terrible, but the Jets can still win that game. I think the Jets are probably going to be favored in that game. I don't have the
3-point favorites.
3-point favorite. The Jets are probably going to win that game. Then you have the Lions immediately after. That'll be a slaughtering. Then you have the Patriots, good win for the Colts. Broncos, elimination game. And then the last 3 weeks are against terrible teams for the Colts. But I don't think the Colts are good. So that's the issue. We can sit here and say those are 3 wins, but the Colts are terrible. So that's where my rationale is right now. And here's the craziest part. I don't think 9 wins is the definite final win total to get you in. I think there's a chance 8 wins can get you in this year. That is how bad I think these final couple teams are. When you have an AFC picture where legitimately almost 7 teams. 7 teams are eliminated right now. 7. That's a huge number. That's a massive number. The Dolphins, 2 wins. There's 5 teams in the AFC with 2 wins. Or 4, whatever it is. 5 teams in the AFC with 2 wins. It's been a disgrace from the jump this year. And the Bengals at 4 wins, I feel better than I did heading in to the Ravens game. I feel fantastic. Because I do think there's a chance 8 wins gets you into the playoffs this year in the AFC.
If you're saying 8 wins gets you in, that means the Chargers aren't winning more than 2 games and the Broncos aren't winning more than 3 games.
Correct.
That's crazy. I mean, the Broncos' schedule, there's easily wins. I mean, Raiders, Browns, Colts, Chargers, Bengals. I mean, are the Bengals a good team?
It's just what you think a bad team is capable of doing. The Bengals have shown this year, outside of week 1, which is probably going to end up costing them, they've been able to beat bad teams. I think right now the Broncos are a bad team, so it's one of those things where if you think they're good enough to beat the bad teams, which maybe they are, and I'm not giving them enough credit.
You have so many bad teams on that schedule.
It's just what the thing that kills the Bengals right now is that Chiefs game's not going to matter. That Chiefs game will not matter the final week for the Broncos. So if the Bengals are able to win this week, and then the Broncos lose to the Falcons, I will be all the way back. I will be more than all the way back. But I do not think the season is over if you lose. I don't think it looks good, but I think it's not over.
Fair enough. Again, you look at that playoff picture. I mean, I know you've countered to some of his points, but your overall view, Jacob, again, following how this has to unfold, you're not as high. I mean, it's not that you're not high on the Cincinnati Bengals, but like, where are you with the Cincinnati Bengals right now when it comes to this playoff picture? Because like I said, I know they have their deficiencies. There's a lot of things that are bad about this Bengals team, obviously, on the defensive side, questions about, the ability of the coaching staff. But overall, the Bengals have something that all those other teams don't, and that is a super elite strong side of the ball. The Colts don't have a strong side of the ball. Like, a lot of these teams, the Broncos technically have a good defense. They have that going for them. But some of these teams, they don't have an elite side of the ball. The Bengals do. I think that's enough to propel them over all those other teams, even with a dumb loss against the Chargers if that happens, which we'll see what happens.
I just think the Chargers are 5-5, or the Broncos are 5-5, and the Chargers are 6-3.
Yep.
I think you have to win those games head-to-head, and I'm not even saying for the final win total. I'm saying for that when you're sitting there with the 8 or 9 wins, you have the tiebreaker. Because those teams are going to get to 8 or 9 wins. The Chargers especially.
Yeah, the Chargers I've already written off the Chargers. I think the Chargers have the 6th seed locked. I don't think we're touching that.
If we beat them this week, we're right there.
I think we're right there, but I think the Chargers are probably going to take it. I think the Chargers are better than the Bengals as of this very second. And as of what are the Cincinnati Bengals? I don't know. I still don't know who they are. I know the Bengals can score at will. I know the Bengals have a quarterback that can score 5 touchdowns and for 400 yards. That's what I know. Defense is the worst I've ever seen. But if you had to ask any team in the NFL, do you want to play the Broncos, the Colts, or the Bengals? I know which team they don't want to play. That's a fact. So I think the Bengals are some earth-shattering Super Bowl contender? No. But we're not talking about that. I'm talking about sneaking into the wild card, taking the final 7 seed, which is more than doable. More than doable. If you beat the Colts on Sunday...
Chargers.
Sorry. If you beat the Chargers on Sunday... Have I done that twice now?
Yeah.
Beat the Chargers on Sunday, all these C teams. If you beat the Chargers on Sunday, the season's all the way back.
I agree.
No, there's no question in my mind.
I agree with that.
We can sit here and stew that the Bengals aren't good. The Bengals, why even make the playoffs if you're not going to win a playoff game? That's not how I act. You want to make the playoffs. I want to see the Bengals play in a playoff game.
The point of contention here is just whether or not the season is over with a loss on Sunday night. That's the only point we disagree. Because I 100% agree that I'm all the way back in if we beat the Chargers.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't think so. I don't think the season's dead. I don't.
I just can't get to the math losing to either the Chargers or the Broncos.
Because I think the Colts or the Broncos can both lose this week. That's why. So if they both lose also, then it's nullified. The week didn't even happen. Is how I look at it.
I think the Broncos are going to beat the Raiders, Browns, and Colts pretty easily. I think the Chargers game's a coin flip. I think the Falcons game's a coin flip. If the Bengals then take care of business, that means you need 9 wins to get in, beating the Broncos for the head-to-head.
Yeah, I think 9 wins is the magic number.
I do agree there, but I think unless you get to 10, you need the head-to-head.
Correct. No, 100%. 9 wins is the magic number with a win over the Broncos.
And Chargers.
Those 2 teams, 9 wins.
And we're on the same page. We're on the same page.
Here's the other thing. I think it was Sean Connor in the chat. You still have to play the Steelers twice. The Steelers, that final week might not matter as well. I'm
gonna say, and it sounds disgusting. We're huge Steelers fans in this room.
Yeah, we are.
Huge Steelers fans in this room. If they lock up the AFC North or lock up the 5, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
As long as they cannot move in Week 18, we are in a really good spot.
Oh, yeah.
Really good spot. So we're big-time Steelers fans the rest of this way. Or the Ravens to win out and clinch this division before the last week, and the Steelers can't move from 5. Either way, that's fine. But those 2 teams need to be locked in, rock solid, where they belong, no chance to flip going into Week 18.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. Let's go through the Bengals schedule. I know we do this all the time, but I'm going to do it again. Chargers on Sunday. Do you think we win that game?
Can you give me till Sunday?
Casey, win or loss? Chargers.
I'm gonna say they win just because I want to see the math on
For the sake of
this little experiment.
Okay. All right. Kenner, I'm going to imagine you're going to say loss.
No, I'm worried about this matchup only because every time Joe Burrow and the Bengals have faced a good defense outside of the Chiefs, they have not been good. Joe Burrow and the Bengals offense, I know like from an efficiency standpoint, he hasn't been terrible, but they don't put up numbers against good defenses. They couldn't do it against Cleveland. They couldn't do it against the Giants. They couldn't do it against Philadelphia. They play Baltimore. I mean, you look at the majority of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase's stats, I'm not hating, but like I'd say about 40% of their stats have come against the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah.
And, of course, big numbers against Carolina, who's bad. When they've gone up against good defenses, that resistance has really slowed down that Bengals offensive attack. And I think now that the run game has gotten worse, maybe it gets better. Who knows what happens with this Leonard Fournette thing, as Herbert gets more comfortable. I'm concerned about how efficient will the Bengals be against the Chargers? I don't think they're going to look like against the Chargers the way they did against the Ravens. And I need to see the Bengals win a game against a team like the Chargers. Now, technically, they've done that against the Browns and against the Giants with good defenses.
Yeah.
But the difference is even though I wouldn't put the Chargers offense as elite, they're facing a quarterback in Justin Herbert. What will Justin Herbert do against this secondary for the Cincinnati Bengals? This matchup I'm super intrigued by because, like, if they can't beat the Chargers, I have no faith in the Bengals being able to beat any good team the rest of the way. I don't like their chances against Pittsburgh in 2 weeks, which makes this almost a must-win on Sunday night because of that. So, and for a lot of reasons, as you've alluded to, I'm going to roll with the Bengals just because they've gotten through it. But, man, I think it's going to be an ugly game. But if Joe Burrow and the offense doesn't look good against this defense, I'm out on them as a whole because – at some point, you have to show that, hey, good defenses aren't going to completely just eliminate every single one of your strengths.
I think it's one of the worst matchups for the Bengals.
I was
the
gonna
way
say,
the Chargers play football.
I agree. The next two matchups are brutal. Yeah. So I'm going to say it's a win, saying that there is no home field advantage when you play the Chargers. I do think you have to factor that in a little bit.
We might
have home field. I'll
Bengals
say
fans traveling.
Yeah,
since it's prime time.
Yeah, I'll say this. I'm not ruling the Bengals. Has the spread come out yet?
1.5 Chargers.
1.5 Chargers.
1.5 Chargers.
It was 2.5 this morning.
Love that. Love being an underdog. I'm going to take the Bengals to win. So in this example, we now have 5 wins. We're 5-6. You play the Steelers at home. I don't know what the injury status of Alex Highsmith is. I imagine he's still going to be out by the time we play. That ankle was crushed. So I don't know what that'll be. Saying that
they do have Preston Smith.
The defense is still elite.
Yeah.
The defense is still elite. I'm going to say the Bengals lose that game. I think that's a brutal matchup. So in this case scenario, we're now 5-7. Casey, do you agree?
I'll agree with that.
Okay, 5-7.
Yep.
You play the Cowboys, who don't have a team.
Win.
Have to
Unless
win.
the sun.
Unless the sun.
Which way are you going in the fourth quarter?
Well, yeah. Well, there will be no sun. That's a primetime game unless it gets flagged. So might get flagged.
There is no chance that game's a primetime game, right?
0%.
No, that's the Homer Simpson one.
So they won't flex it.
Yeah, you have to.
Oh, you get Cooper Rush versus the 5 or 4-6 Bengals
or Trey Lance
on Disney Plus.
Okay, so we win that. You win that game. They're 6-7.
If that game I know it can get flexed because of the Homer Simpson stuff. If that game got flexed to 1 p.m., Cooper Rush would throw for 450 yards. But since it's in prime time, he won't. He won't go off in prime time.
6-7.
Trey Lance might though.
Trey Lance might. Trey Lance might be the starter there in a second. 6-7. The Bengals beat the Cowboys.
Win.
7-7 after you beat the Titans because you have to. I mean, we can't just. I mean, they have to beat the Titans. Browns 8-7, and then you have the Broncos and the Steelers 9 wins, and then 10 wins. No,
I think you win both those games. You're in. You lose one of them. You're out in that scenario.
I think if you no, I still think if you beat the Broncos and then lose to the Steelers somehow in that final game, you're in. I think
it would be really close.
You'd be asking for help.
Yeah,
you'd be asking for help.
You can't lose to the Broncos. You
can't lose to the Broncos in that scenario. 9 wins, losing to the Broncos and beating the Steelers does not get you in.
Correct. That's true. 9 wins, losing to that, but again, they won't lose to the Steelers because the Steelers won't have anything to play for.
I hope.
So that's what the Bengals are working with now.
Yeah.
Man,
I can't believe they're going to be sitting at 5-7 though. That's what's going to eat me alive is that we're predicting them to go 5-7
and still get in.
It's just how the AFC is shaking out. The AFC is terrible.
I was on the playoff machine over the weekend, and I found a few 10-7s that don't get us in. Which is gut-wrenching to know that those are out there.
No, because that's not right. Dude, 10 wins is a mortal lock. There's no way the Denver Broncos win 10 games. I will bet my reputation on it, which I think the
Denver Broncos have a side of the ball that's pretty elite.
I think that's fine. I think they've got a decent defense. I think Bo Nix stinks. I think he's going to turn the ball over when you need him in a big moment. So that's just at least my opinion as of this very second. And again, I'm not like you're fighting with two bad teams. I don't the Broncos.
But we are a bad team.
Sure, 100%. There's three bad teams.
Right.
And we're the better of the bad teams.
That's what I'm not so sure
You're
I'm
the
willing
tallest
to say.
short person.
Correct.
And that's what I mean. I don't know. I don't know. I think the Bengals have a quarterback and a wide receiver and an edge rusher. And that's it.
Let's go. 3 versus the world. That's fine by me.
Yeah, I think a lot of the Bengals conversation here on where they lie based on the rest of the other teams in the AFC playoff picture is based a lot on what they've done in the past and not what they're doing this year. And it's the same for the other teams. I think the Chargers and the Broncos are being graded on what they've done in the past and not necessarily what they're doing this year. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see as it shakes out. These teams are so close, and they play each other, which is a great thing.
All of them play each other.